Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's class for the first intermediate grade. Today we're going to review the third unit in the second semester, which is from the textbook Super Gold 2. And today we're going to cover two units. The first unit will be, what do you do? And in this unit, we're going to revise the most important themes we have learned from this one. You remember that the first thing we learned in this unit was what is gadgets. And here we have identify a new vocabulary, which is gadgets. And we say that gadgets is any electronic tool that we use. Like, for example, a camera or a smartphone, MP3 player, or a printer and a console, and also a laptop. All of these are gadgets. And we said that we read about Adnan and his friend Majid, and each one of them talked about himself. He talked about himself, how old is he, and also what is his interest, or what are his interests. For example, Majid, he is 14 years old. His interests are sports, he likes video games, and he likes tennis. And also he said that in the future he wants to become a famous tennis player. And also Adnan, he is 14 years old as well, and his interests are he likes technology, gadgets, and high-tech design. And he wants to become a high-tech designer in the future. So we have learned about these two friends, and also we have read a conversation about them, where each one of them say why or what does he want to be in the future. For example, Adnan said that I want to be a designer because I would like to design gadgets and computers and things. And also as for Majid, he said that he would like to be a famous tennis player. So each one of them talks about the things that he likes and the things that, or the profession that he would like to be in the future. Also, on page 4, in the grammar rule, we have identified the differences between the simple present and the present progressive. And we said that we use the simple present usually with every habit we do or every routine. For example, we say, I go to work every day. This is my routine. This is a kind of habit for me. Also, I teach English. This is what I do. He plays football every week. She cooks dinner every night. So we said that we use the simple present for only the habits or the things or the activities that we can or we do regularly. And we use the present progressive for the actions that are happening right now. For example, right now, I am teaching English. Right now, I am reviewing this unit. What do you do? Right now, I am standing in front of the screen. So this is the difference between the simple present and also the present progressive. So not only with the function, the difference also with the verb, the things that we add or the letters that we add to a verb. For example, with the simple present, we don't add anything, but with the present progressive, we add ing. So these are the two simple difference between them. And also on page 4, we have talked about sample sentences like this, for example. We said that whenever we use those four pronouns, I work, you work, I or you or they or we don't have to add anything to the verb. We just leave the verb as it is. So we say, I work for an airline company. You work for an airline company. You can also say, I have a job. They have a job. We can also say this. We don't add anything to the verb if we are using those four pronouns. But if you are using those third person pronouns, he and she, in this case, we must add s to the verb. For example, he works for an airline company. She works for an airline company. And this does not go in all the verbs. No, we do have some exception. And one of the verbs that have this exception is the verb have. When we use have for the third singular pronoun has and he and she. In this case, we use has. For example, we would say, he has an airline, or he has a job. She has a job. So here we have the regular form, is we just add the s to the verb. And here we have irregular form, where we can have a different form of the verb that we already use. And also we have learned on the same page how to make question in the simple present tense. For example, when I ask question like, what do you do? We said that it does not mean, what are you doing right now? It means, what is your job? What is your job? Are you a student? Are you a teacher? Are you a doctor? So what do you do? And we can change the form of this question when we change the subject. For example, we say, what do you do, when we talk about you. But when we talk about he, a third person, we said, what does he do? And if I want to talk about a group of people, what do they do? And also for a female, I would say, what does she do? So here, I change the question, or I change the form whenever I have different subject. And the function is the same. The meaning is the same, which is, what is the job, or what is the profession that you're doing? And here we have, on page 5, we have listened to an interesting text, which is about listening to each people, 4 different people, each one of them talking about his job. So what we need to do is to try to decide what kind of job he has, each one of them, and also where is his place of work. We have listened to Omar. He said he's a chef and he works for a restaurant. And we have listened to Lee. He is a salesperson who works in a store. And we have listened to David. He is a teacher and he works for a school. And also Robert, who is a doctor and he works in a hospital. So we have listened to this interesting text and try to fill in this chart with the people's information. Also with the pronunciation, we have learned an interesting thing. We said that sometimes with some verbs we can see the letter S, but it's pronounced differently. For example, here the first one, writes, we pronounce the S as the sa sound. Writes, writes, like the word bus. But with some verbs, even if it's ended with S, no, we need to pronounce it with the sound. For example, sells, sells. So even if it's written with the S, it should be pronounced with that sound, like the word buzz, buzz. So these are the very important information about pronunciation of some of the verbs that ends with the letter S. Also on page 6, we have listened to a conversation between 2 students, Adil and Steve, and each one of them talked about what do they want to be in the future. For example, Adil said that in the future, I want to be a flight attendant. Why, Adil? He said, I like to travel and meet a lot of different people. And Steve do not know what does he want to be in the future, but he said what are the things that he likes. He said, for example, I'm good with computer, I like high-tech stuff, and also I'm interested in art and design. Also, we have read the text on page 7 about Omar Hamdan, a famous football player. And if you remember, we had a discussion about his dreams. He said that I want to be a professional football player. I want to work or join a school where they have a professional team. But his parents say no. This professional career, professional football player playing career is very short, and you need to go to university. And we had a discussion whether you agree with his parents or you agree with Omar's Hamdan. And also we have listened to Khalid talking about his dream job, and also we managed to write a similar text of Khalid. And on page 8, we have learned the differences between using because and also so. We said that we use because as an answer of the question why. So we ask a question why just to give a reason. Why, it means for what reason. And because, just to explain that reason as an answer. So We use it to ask for a reason, and we use because to answer question like of why. For example, if we have a question like this, why is he taking a nap? The answer must start with because he is tired. Also another example, why do you want to stay home? Because it's cold and rainy. So this is how can we use why and because. Also we have another use of because. As we said, it tells the reason, and also so tells a consequence or a result of that reason. For example, he is a good student because he studies a lot. So here because is giving a reason, the reason of why he is a good student. Now so is vice versa. So is presenting the result, not the reason. So he studies a lot. So what is the result of him studying a lot? Is that he is a good student. So this was the difference between them. Now we move on to the other unit, which is what is school like? And we describe in this unit different subjects with different adjectives. And on page 10 we said that you can choose any subject you would like, and you can use one of these adjectives to describe those subjects. For example, I think math is challenging. So this is an opinion, when you give your opinion about the subject math using one of these adjectives. And we have explained this example. I think math is challenging. I think art is fun. I think English is easy. And here we have shown even more examples of these, how to describe a subject with an adjective. Also, we have learned how to ask someone about his favorite subject. We have questions like, do you like math? And you can write whatever answer you would like or whatever adjective you would like to describe that subject. Yes, I think it's difficult. I think it's challenging. I think it's fun. You can choose whatever you like. So these were one of the things that we did on page 11. We also talked about the classmates in the pictures. We said that how to describe different people. And we have learned some of those descriptions, like for example, the color of the hair, and also the color, whether he's tall, his height, or even his weight. We have talked about a lot of adjectives. Also with the simple present tense, we have added on what we have in the previous unit, which is that we use the simple present tense always with the things that are a kind of habit to us. Like for example, I speak, we use with those pronoun, we don't add anything to the verb. I speak English, you speak English, they speak English. But if we are using a third person pronoun, in this case we need to add an s to or s to the verb. So for example, he speaks English or she speaks English. And we can write as many verbs as we like. And also we said we have an exception, which is with the verb have and has, that in that particular verb we don't add s to it. No, we change the whole form if we are using he or she. Also here, if we are using the negative form, we add do not with those pronouns, and we add doesn't with he and she. So I do not speak English, or he doesn't speak English. The same goes for making questions. We said if we want to make questions, the same do, that whether we use it with a negative or we use it with questions, remain with those pronouns you, we, and they. And does also remains with he and she, whether if you are using it with a negative form or even with questions. For example, do you speak English, or does he speak English? And also we have talked about adjectives, and we said we have two kinds of adjectives. Adjectives that comes before the noun, and adjectives that comes after the verb to be. For example, one of the adjectives that comes before a noun, this one, Uncle Peter has a long beard. Has a long beard. So the adjective is long and the noun is beard. And the second one, history is interesting. So interesting here is an adjective, comes after the verb to be, which is in this case is. And also on page 12, we have answered questions about Ahmed's schedules. Here we can see the periods and also the teachers who are teaching those subjects. And here are the days, and we write down what are the subjects that he will take on that particular day and also on which period. Also on page 13, we have listened to Seth and Ted, each one of them talking about his description, talking about himself. So we said that imagine yourself in an airport waiting for someone, listen to him describing himself, and try to write down some or to check one of these statements to tell whether if he is that person you are waiting for or not. And also with the pronunciation, we said that when we add sometimes with the verb, we don't only add s, but we add es. So the pronunciation will differ sometimes. For example, Mr. Robinson teaches geography. We say teaches because we added es. It's like another syllable. And Carrie watches. The description matches. Fred uses. So here we have some example of the verb that it's not only enough to add s, but also es. And also we have listened to a conversation on page 14 between Hashim and Faris, where each one of them talks about his favorite subject. Faris said, for example, he likes science because he likes or he loves the experiments. And Hashim, he said, I prefer history because it is fascinating. Not only this, but also each one of them describe his favorite teacher. So Faris said that he likes the math teacher, and also Hashim said he likes the Mr. Houston, the English teacher. And we have a question about you. What is, why do you like homeworks? What is your favorite subject? And who is your best friend? And what is your schedule like? And you can describe your best friend. What does he look like? So all of these questions we have asked it about you, just to try to practice some of the themes and ideas we have listened and read in this unit. Also with the reading on page 15, we have been exposed to a new theme, which is the school clubs, and where we said that we have listened to a text talking about different school clubs, like the science club, the archaeology club, poetry club, computer club, drama club, and football club. And each one of these clubs has its own activities. Each one of them have its own activities, and we have talked about them in details. And also with the writing exercises on page 16, I asked you to complete this chart about the physical appearance, the character, and the interest of this person. So for a physical appearance, like for example the color of the eyes and hair, black eyes and brown hair, you can have a look here. And also for his physical appearance, his height and build, we can say he is short and thin, as we can see. And also with the character, whether he is friendly, if he is easygoing, if he is kind. And also with the interest, as we can see, he likes sport, especially football and video games. And I ask you also to think of anyone, whether if it's your family member or your classmate or a friend from your neighborhood, and talk about his physical appearance, make a similar chart and talk about his physical appearance, character, and his interests. Also, on the same page with writing corner, we talked about that each sentence has a subject and a verb, but if it happens that the sentence has two verbs and one subject, in this case, we don't have to add or repeat the subject over and over. We can only add and. For example, Fahad is athletic and plays football. We don't have to say Fahad is athletic, Fahad is or Fahad plays football. No, in this case we can only add and. And also the second example, he is tall and has brown eyes. So here in this case we don't have to repeat the subject, we only add and. Also with a similar exercise we have talked about Ali is a cousin of this writer, and he talks about his physical appearance, the character, and also his interest. And also we have used some of the new terms, like for example makes his friend laugh, medium build, curly black, and cheerful and friendly, quite tall, and smiles a lot. So here we have some expressions that may help you to use or have helped you to use it in your writing. And the last thing we did is that we have learned in the form and meaning and function on page 17, we have identified some of the reactions or some of the feelings that a person might feel. Like, for example, excited, frightened, confused, worried, tired, bored, annoyed, and interested. And we have used those feelings in answering a couple of questions and exercises on that page. And now we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.